Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. We are the Candid Book Club. So my name is Oma, this is Tanya, Jess, Miriam and Linda.
You've never introduced
I know, it's true. Miriam or Mimi. So today's video is about classics. So personally, I haven't really read classics. And that's because I'm like a brown girl from East London. Parents never knew about the classics, didn't ever recommend them. The only ones that I read are the ones that I read for GCSE growing up. And I always feel like, as a self-confessed like reader, bookworm, whatever, I feel like I should have read some of the classics, but I feel like the time for them is gone. I probably should have read them when I was growing up, but I never did. And now I can't really be bothered to go back and read them. But I feel like, am I not a real reader if I haven't read the classics? Do you know what I mean?
Do you feel conscious?
Yeah, a little bit.
But why?
So when people talk about like people who maybe haven't read contemporary fiction, who aren't current readers, but they previously might have been, the kind of stuff they talk about would be the classics. Like they might talk about like Dickens, or they'll talk about Lord of the Rings. They will talk about like, you know, Lord of the Flies. They will talk about Jane Austen. And I haven't read any of those. So it kind of makes me feel like a little bit inadequate, maybe.
You've read, what did you do at school?
At school, I did like Macbeth, Romeo and Juliet, Great Expectations.
That's a classic.
And then the other one, the main one we did was Of Mice and Men.
So you have read some.
But that's what I'm saying, outside of school, I haven't really read anything. Even the Jane Austen, even though those are sort of like romance books, and I thought that I would have loved those, but I just never got into it.
Love them though. Like Pride and Prejudice is laugh out loud funny. Like it's laugh out loud funny.
I've read like the redos or the adaptations.
Then I think you'd like the originals, yeah. 100%. Mrs. Bennett,
It's short anyway.
Mrs. Bennett in Pride and Prejudice, like the OG Mrs. Bennett, is absolutely hilarious.
Okay.
She's chaotic. She's so well written. Actually, and to be honest with you, all of them, like Northanger Abbey is a bit dark and a bit.
So wait, or are we saying Pride and Prejudice is that smash or pass?
It's a smash.
100%.
Absolutely smash. It should be on the shelf. You can also, if you want to, they do publish abridged versions, so you don't have to read the whole thing.
What's the bridged version?
Abridged.
Abridged.
Slightly shortened.
Oh.
They do.
Then what's the point?
Stupid. No, it's not. It's just it's about skipping the boring bits if you want to.
Okay, Northanger Abbey.
Not so good.
Okay, pass from Mimi.
Yeah.
So what classics have you guys read that you do think are worth the read? Because I feel like some of them maybe are just not worth it, like the Leo Tolstoys and the big fat tombs.
I think for all of us, I guess our first real immersion into it would have been school, like you said. But I actually think the ones I read at school are really worth it. So we read Lord of the Flies as part of English, and I absolutely love that book. I still love it. I think it's a fascinating like look at what happens when you travel.
I had no idea. I actually thought it was related to Lord of the Rings.
They put these bunch of kids on is it an island?
It's an island, isn't
Basically.
it? Yeah, and they just become. It's like they go back to their basic instincts, and it's very much like a fight to survive on this island with schoolboys. And it
Is this not a
gets
film?
so dark. It probably has been.
That sounds like a fantastic film that I would watch.
But read the book.
Again, it's quite short, but like obviously they pick these things at school, isn't it? Just so that we could like character study and dissect like what happens. I don't know. I think I'm over it. I'm over it because we rinsed it so hard.
Yeah. But when you think about it in hindsight, it's great. Like it's really entertaining. Like you were invested in the characters and the story that was happening. And I think that if you take it out of that context, so one of the other books we read was Great Expectations, which we all know is a massive tome of a book. It's huge. It is.
Dickens is
Some of it is boring, but on the whole, when I think back to it and I think about the story, it was actually quite entertaining. It's quite an entertaining story. It's of its time, but that doesn't mean I was bored reading it.
Yeah.
So
I'd say,
It's in the mid.
Yeah,
in the middle.
I want to be on the fence. I want to.
Yeah, because I read it in school. I don't think I'd pick it up again now.
Yeah.
But I loved it in school. I loved Miss Havisham and all of that stuff. It was just, I found it a bit freaky at points as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I quite enjoyed Great Expectations in school and Of Mice and Men.
Yeah.
I loved Of Mice and Men. Everyone hated it, but
No, I really enjoyed it. I think it was so
There was
good.
always a little line there, I don't want no kids
Kids
of
of
George.
Say that loud. Say it.
I don't want no ketchup, George. Well, that's our teacher was really good at doing the voices. Yeah.
Wow. Sad story.
Yeah.
Sad story. What's his name?
Lenny and George. Yeah.
But there's really good ones that are written by women as well, guys. You can't remember the classics written by women. I always said Jane Austen, but Charlotte Bronte, Jane Eyre is so great. Love that book.
Smash
It's absolute smash. I would reread it for time.
Really?
Absolutely reread that one. But also How Belize to Kill a Mockingbird.
Yeah, I read that one. That was a good book.
Excellent.
I didn't even remember, like...
Oh my God. It's so brilliant. I was lucky enough to go see it at the theatre recently when they did the adaptation. Brilliant. Honestly brilliant. And I think like those sorts of books are, sometimes they're real classics because they represent like cultural moments. That's what To Kill a Mockingbird was. But I think sometimes, like Jane Eyre, I just think is a fascinating love story because there's like a really big class divide in it. It's long, but it's so good.
Has anyone read Rebecca?
No.
No. Do you know that's been on my shelf for so long? Someone told me ages ago, like, read this.
Wow.
And I haven't read it.
Yeah, I've got it.
This is the year that I read Rebecca. I think that's Daphne
Du Maurier.
Yeah, then that's on my list. I read from the Dickens ones. Actually, I did really enjoy A Tale of Two Cities.
Yeah.
So I think that's a smash. And is Oscar Wilde considered classics?
I think so.
Yeah. I've read, obviously most of his stuff is plays. Yeah. I've read The Picture of Dorian Gray, which I think is really good. So that's a smash for me.
So basically they're worthwhile, right? So I think there's a reason that a book can stand the test of time. Sometimes it'll stand the test of time just because people think they should read it, but sometimes it's because it is actually really good. And I do think like some of those older ones are worth revisiting, a little snapshot into the period in which they were written, a nice like look into the past. It doesn't mean that you kind of are not an authentic reader if you've never picked them up at all, because they aren't relevant. Some of them just are simply not relevant anymore. And they're just for the story. They're just to be read for the story.
What I will say is I've recently, to try and get around the like length issue that a lot of these old books have, is I've sort of taken the audiobook route and I decided to start listening to Vanity Fair as an audiobook, and I've only just started it, so I'm like a few chapters in, but the opening chapters is basically about these two young girls leaving their finishing school to go out into the wide world, and they're so obviously feminist, and they're like such strong, fun characters that really want to go out and like make their mark in the world, and I just wasn't what I was expecting from this book because I didn't know anything about it. I didn't know what it would be about, but for it to open like this with these two young women who I'm like already rooting for and I'm barely there, is such a sort of common theme in contemporary novels. So it just really made me think like this is something that I think I could really love. I just need to invest the time into it. So I think it's worth it overall.
It's also quite fun to pick up the ones that got banned because they were too saucy.
That's true.
So TikTok ain't got nothing on these.
Is The Graduate a classic?
I think that's a bit more modern. I would say it's one of the...
I'm thinking more like Lady Chatterley's Lover.
Yeah, I also Madame Bovary by Gustave Flaubert.
Another thing, isn't he? Me and my mum read that book and we were like, oh.
Which one, Madame Bovary?
No, Lady Chatterley's Lover.
Lover.
Like, oh, it's very naughty.
Madame Bovary is also quite scandalous because she's a married woman who's having an affair, and he's younger as well, so it's quite, Can
I just say that all of these things though, we recognise that with these like modern classics or like these Penguin classics or the ones that we had to study at school, they're mostly written by white men or white women, but not as much. And there are a lot of classics that are written by authors of colour. And Penguin Modern Classics actually, or is it just Penguin Classics, published this massive book that has every single book that they've published that is like, with the cute little penguin logo. And I actually have some of them on my shelf. So I thought, Sam Selvin, he's written a few. So he's from Trinidad, I think, and he came to the UK. So he was probably, from the first set of like immigrants that wrote about their experience in London. And he writes it in the vernacular that he speaks in or spoke in. And so The Lonely Londoners is really good, and The Housing Lot, that I really enjoyed. So that I think they were published in the 50s.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I think so. And then there was another one that stood out to me. That's Tayyip Saleh, who's a Sudanese writer, Season of Migration to the North. Again, Sudan under like colonial rule, and then obviously like the aftermath of that, and then him coming to the UK, and just like those kind of vibes. But yes, I think there's a lot.
I also think about two books which are related in topic about kind of slavery, and I think that they're very much considered to be classics. So Roots by Alex Haley. There's one that we all know about, and that book is obviously very, very harrowing, but very much worth reading and educational and foundational.
When is that? Do we know?
No. I should probably look that up. But also, the other one I'm thinking of, which I know a few of us have read, is The Colour Purple by Alice Walker.
That's great.
Which has been made into a movie a couple of times, but the book is worth it.
Great.
It's beautiful.
It's an excellent book.
Yeah.
And then obviously these might be obvious choices, but they're still like worth reading. Maybe they're considered modern classics, but like Maya Angelou's books, and also Ty Sorrison, like they have to be read.
Yeah.
Can I just say that I read The Colour Purple when I was studying German, and I didn't realize it was an English book. Yeah, because we watched the movie in German as well. So I just my whole time I thought, it's a German book.
Cultured, wonderful.
I was really shocked to find out that
It was really English.
So I do on the translated stuff. I know that you were saying, Jess, that Gabriel Garcia Marquez's books are now considered classics.
They are, yeah.
And did you see the scandal that his son or his nephew has published this book post, like he's been dead like a good few years, that he never wanted published.
Oh no.
It's published now. So apparently, like, people are like in two minds. Like, should you have respected the wishes, or are we happy that there's this book that we never knew about? But yeah, I read all of his books when I was doing Spanish for A-level. Don't ask me all they're about. There was a lot of like realism and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Arman, have we convinced you to pick up a classic?
Maybe. No, I think there are a good couple options in there that I think that I would like. So I think I will give some of those a go. But are there any classics that you guys have read that you think that are worth the hype and you would slash? Or do you think that they're just a bit overrated and you don't really need to read them to be considered like a seasoned or, you know?
Anything to be considered anything.
It's true. But so let us know your thoughts and don't forget to like and subscribe. And we'll see you at the next one. Bye.